Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be taking a look at translation and localization inside Laravel. Now, at its current stage, if you guys are, for example, looking to change the language of your application or maybe add support for a second language, it is very difficult to do. So if you want to change a language, you will have to go ahead and update all our blade files and maybe set them to a different, let's say French, right? So you will have to go ahead and translate all the blade files to French. And then if you want to go ahead and return it back to English, you will have to go ahead and update all these translations. Now, if you have, you're using Git or a version control, you can definitely make that a little bit easier once you have the second translation, but it's just a pain to do that. It's very annoying, right? And then if you want to support two languages at the same time with the current kind of setup we have, it's almost impossible to do, or you will have to come up with your own kind of custom implementation to switch languages. Now, Laravel actually does have a language kind of set of features which we can use to make our life a lot easier. So that's what we are going to do actually today. We are going to add support for translation and also add support for multiple languages for our blog. So let's get right into it. Now, if you guys are interested, I do have a separate kind of set of videos on my Laravel course for kind of translation and language features in Laravel. So I will try to put the link for those in the description. So I'm not going to be covering everything, especially the basics. So if you're interested for a more in-depth look, you can watch those videos, but still you can still follow along. It's relatively simple. So if you just follow along, you will definitely get an understanding of how it works. Okay, so let's get right into it. So the first step is I'm going to actually publish the Laravel language folder. So we can do that by opening the terminal and typing in PHP artisan lang publish, and this will go ahead and publish the language folder. It's just called lang, right? Now, by default, Laravel supports two ways of storing our translations. One of them is using folders. So we are going to have a separate folder for every language, for example, ES and EN for English and Spanish. And then the second method of storing them is using files, right? Specifically a JSON file. So we are going to have, let's say, an individual JSON file, let's say es.json. So the name of the file or the folders are obviously going to be the shorthand symbol or the code for that language. And then with the JSON method, you will have to put everything in a single file. So now for today's video, I'm going to use the folder method. But if you are interested, you can definitely go ahead and use the JSON file on your own. I have found from my personal experience, the JSON file is good if you have a small project. I don't personally like it for larger projects, and I definitely don't like it if I later want to move the translations into a database. I actually prefer the folder method because things are a little bit more organized. So that's my personal opinion and preferences. But if you guys are interested, you can definitely go ahead and use the JSON method as well. Okay, it's here for a reason. Obviously, it's useful. So without further ado, let's actually get into it. I'm going to remove the extra folders I created. Just keep the EN folder. So we're going to go ahead and actually start translating from our home page, then the blog page, and then maybe the login and register page, okay? But definitely we are going to translate home and blog. So let's start off with home. So with the folder method, we are going to store our translations inside PHP files. And then each of these PHP files we create are kind of similar to a group. So we are going to group translations that are similar or are shown on the same page together, okay? Now there are four existing PHP files. These are ones that are used by the Laravel's built-in kind of libraries and classes, right? So such as like authentication, pagination, or all the validation messages. So we're not going to be touching those. They're going to stay here. So I'm going to go ahead and first off create a new PHP file called home.php. And I'm going to use this to store all the translations for our home page, right? You can also name this landing page if you guys like, but since we already have named this home on our web.php file, and then we have the home controller, I'm going to go ahead and also name it home. Okay, so all the translation files are going to be a simple PHP file. So we're going to have an opening PHP tag and then return an array, right? Or basically an associative array. Now, if I go back and I do a reload, things are still working, which is nice. So let's go ahead. I have the home file open over here. Let's start off by translating actually these featured posts. So the way this works, guys, is we are going to, instead of hard coding the value, we are going to use Laravel's built-in methods. These are kind of like helper methods. Now the easiest one is using underline. I know it looks a bit strange, but basically this is used to load our translations. Okay, so underline, underline. So this is a method or a function, and inside of it, if you're using the folder method, the first thing you need to type in is the folder you are going to access the translation from, or think of it like a group. So in this case, we are going to use home. So I'm just going to say home. And then after that, you're going to put a dot. So the dot is used to kind of indicate, okay, now we're loading a translation line under or inside the home folder. And then, sorry, inside the home file. And then inside here, then we are going to actually access a language line. Now, right now, we don't have any language lines. So let's go ahead and create one. So the key can be anything. In this case, I'm going to name it featured posts. And I prefer to use underline to kind of separate instead of spaces. So I'm going to use here, and then the actual value, which is going to be shown to the user. So since we are inside the English folder, I'm just going to paste featured posts. And then to access it here, we are going to put in the key here, right? So in this case, we had future underline posts. I'll copy that and I'll paste it here, right? And what will happen is during runtime, Laravel will go ahead and find this home.php file, get the value inside future posts, which is this, and then basically echo it here, right? Replace it here. Okay, so it will display a future post to the user. Okay, so let's save that. Let's go back. And we might get an error over here, which is totally okay. Now, the reason we are getting an error, guys, is I believe inside our menus, we are kind of using this translation loader, underline, and we have home. And since home is actually a PHP file we have, it is returning kind of an array, right? It's returning all the translations. So we are not allowed to do that, right? So, and this is because initially I believe we copied that from jetstream, if I'm not mistaken, and jetstream uses the JSON method. So we have to go ahead and actually replace this inside our menus. So it's inside navigation menu.blade. I'll just find it, navigation menu.blade. So again, this is trying to load the entire home.php, which is why it's causing this error over here. Okay, as you can see, must be string array given. So if you have a PHP file, you cannot just put it inside these translations, right? So in this case, I'll just put some random text. Let's do a reload. It actually fixes the error, okay? So as you can see, we did not get an error for blog because we do not have a PHP file of that exact same name. So you do need to be careful with that. Now in this case, I will come back and later on translate these. For now, just leave them as is. We'll come back and fix them later on, okay? So that's for future posts. Later down here, we have a latest post. I will go ahead and do the exact same thing. I'm going to say a latest post. Of course, we also need to go ahead and actually create the translation line for it. So latest posts, and it should be latest posts. Make sure you add the commas in between. Okay, so now that we have this one, we can of course go ahead and update it as well. Let's do a quick reload. And as you guys can see, it is indeed working. And to double check and make sure it is loaded from our translation lines, I can always come over here, add some extra kind of a piece of text at the end. And if I reload, as you can see, it gets updated here, right? So this makes it very easy to update these texts without actually touching our blade files, right? Which is very nice. Okay, so what else is there to translate? We have this load more or more post button. I'll go ahead and also translate that. I believe we have two of these, right? Yeah, we have this one over here. So I'll do the exact same thing. I'll keep copying it from here so we don't have to type it in again. So for this one, I say more posts, exact same text. Okay, I'll just literally use the text for the key. So here we have more posts. And I do need to get rid of the extra space. That's it. Let's do a reload, make sure it is working. It is. And since this is reused down here as well, I'll just basically copy it. Okay, so I'll just copy this and I'll paste it for this one. And actually we have not updated these links. So let's go ahead and fix these links as well. So for this one, it is start reading. So I believe this should go to our blog route. So I'll just do route blog. Same for this one. So let's actually just add that here. Okay, so in this case, I'll do route blog. And let me copy this as well. And let's also update this last one. Let's reload, make sure everything works. It is telling us blog is not defined. Yes, this should be blog.index. My bad. Yep. Blog.index. And this one should also be blog.index. Okay, so let's reload. Why is this giving us error? It is called post.index. My bad. Yeah, I forgot, guys. Sorry. We haven't recorded a video in, I believe, 2 weeks. So I'm a little bit rusty. Please bear with me. Okay, so hopefully now it's working. So we have translated future posts, more post button, the latest post, and then the last button. So now the only thing remaining for us is kind of this hero section or the header. So let's go ahead and translate this. So since I'm using the hero for I'm naming this a hero, I will use the same naming scheme, I guess, inside our translation line as well. Now, inside your translation lines, you are actually allowed to use arrays. So technically, for example, I could do something like hero and then have an array and separate it or categorize it that way. So for example, I can say hero.title, hero title, and then this can be, let's say, welcome to. And this one is our application logo, I guess, name. So I'm not going to be translating that for now. So we can do something like this. And then after that, we have this description. So I'll just copy that. I'll do desk for description. And then last but not least, we have CTA. So this, I use CTA to kind of refer to call to action. So basically, anytime we have a button in a header or like in a hero section or in a card, it's generally referred to as a call to action button. So I'll just go ahead and use that as well. So for this one, I'll do something like this, okay? So now that we have defined this in an array, it kind of changes the way we access the translation. So the way we do it is similar, but slightly different. So first we have the file name, which is home. Then we have the translation line or key for that, which is hero. And then inside hero, again, we have an array, right? So then we need to go ahead and add another dot to indicate we are loading inside hero. So in this case, it is going to be title. So I'm going to say hero.title, right? Just like this. And then we have description. So I'll just copy this for description as well. Let's put it over here. So I'll do a desk. And then this one is going to be CTA, just like this, right? So you can again have arrays inside this main array as well, right? So you can nest them as well. So let's save this. I'll do a quick reload, guys. And everything should look exactly like I did before, right? Now for the logo, if you want, you can definitely go ahead and make this be kind of an argument here or a variable or something that is replaceable. So like a placeholder. That's also possible. For now, just keep the HTML here because it's quite big. And then again, it's our application name. So this one might not change, but I'll leave that for later on. And I believe we have now kind of translated our homepage, okay? Next up, let's go ahead and actually update our menus. So for this one, I'm going to actually create a separate file for it. So I'll just open it up and I'll name it a menu.php. You can also name it menus. It's up to you. I'll just go with menu.php. So I don't have to type as much. And then it's exact same thing. We're going to return an array. So let's open up our navigation menu, which is this one. So the first one was supposed to be home. So we are going to say menu.home. This one is the blog page. I'm going to say menu.blog, right? Obviously, we don't have these two keys. So let's go ahead and create them. So the first one is going to be home. And for the keys, I always use lowercase. And then for this one is blog, and I'll do blog as well. Okay, simple stuff. Let's do a quick reload. And as you can see, guys, now this thing is fixed. We also have a few on the right side. So let's open up header right auth. Now here we have another one for our admin link. So it is already using the translation, but I'm going to use the file method. So in this case, I'll do menu.admin. So let's go ahead and add admin as well. Next up, we have, let's see, any more menus. Okay, so we have a bunch of these for like manage tokens. I'll also translate these. Now these are jetstream stuff. You technically can kind of ignore them, but I'll update these as well. So I'll do menu.manage account. So we'll need to add this guy as well. Manage account. What else do we have? We have profile, so I'll add profile as well. Profile. And here I have used kind of single and double quotes mixed. I'll fix that later on. We have API tokens now. We technically are not using API tokens, guys, so we can technically ignore this, but let's translate it, I guess. Why not? Or we could just remove this. I don't think I'm going to enable tokens, so I'll just remove it, okay? And then last but not least, we have logout, so I'll do menu.logout as well. So let's add that as well. So I'll come over here and I'll do log out, and this one is going to be logout, just like this. And let me also update all these double quotes to a single quote. I don't like mixing them, it just annoys me, so I'll just use that. And I believe we updated everything. Let me double check. Is there anything we haven't translated? I believe that is all, guys. So if I forget to translate something, please do that on your own, but I believe that is all. So okay, so let's do reload. Now some of them was for when we are logged in, so let me log in, make sure it is working. Profile is okay, manage account, logout, and then admin as well. We did not, however, update or add login and register. So for those two, I believe it is using menu header right. So let's open it up. Yeah, it's these guys. So for this one, I do menu.login and then menu.register. So let's open this up and then we'll add those guys as well. So I'll add login and logout. Login, so register, login, register. So now that we have added these guys as well, we should be able to, again, load them from our translation files. So I'll do a reload, and as you can see, it is indeed working. So we are officially done with our header. Now we do have a few other links on our footer as well. So I assume, I kind of see this as menus as well. It's like a footer menu. So I will go ahead and add those extra links in our menu file as well. So let's go ahead and add that. Now we don't have about us, help, login, or sorry, an explore page. So I'll actually go ahead and only add like blog. I believe explore is supposed to be blog. So I'll just add explore and login and then get rid of these extra ones. Later on, if we add the pages, I will obviously add the translations for them. So let's open up our footer. We have all these guys over here. I'll get rid of these two. So I'll just keep a login. Maybe we can even add profile, why not? So let's add profile as well. So of course, we're not hard coding anymore, so I'll just load them from our translation. So we already have them profile. We already have login as well, so we can just reuse that. So we can do menu.login. And then the only thing remaining is this one. And I think instead of explore, we can just do blog. Okay, so I'll do menu.blog. Okay, and that's another benefit to kind of using translation files is you can actually reuse strings. So if I later on want to change this profile to my profile, I can change all of them at the same time. And of course, this saves me, you know, extra time. Okay, so that's it. We have updated all of these, and I believe we are officially done with the home page. So let's go ahead and also update the blog page. And the video is getting a little bit long, guys. We're at 20 minutes, but I will definitely go ahead and update translate this page as well. So for this one, we have our filters at the top, we have the widgets, and I believe that is all. Okay, so let's start off with these filters at the top. So first thing first, I'll go ahead and I'll create a new file for this. I'll call it blog.php. So I'll put all the blog page related stuff inside this file. So let's go ahead and add the opening PHP tag and return an array, just like so. And also open up our blade file for this. So for this one, I believe we are going to open up post list first. So I'll open up post list. So we have quite a lot of stuff over here. I'll start with containing and then continue going down. Okay, so for first one, we are going to have containing. I'll just copy it from here. That's the first one. And I make this be actually capital. I think I'll prefer that. And then to load it, guys, exact same thing. So the PHP file name, which is blog, and then the key itself, which is containing. And I'll reuse this. So next up, we have these filters. Now for the filters, we can definitely make them be like filter and then have it be inside an array. So it's up to you guys how you do it. I'm not going to do it this way. I'll just have them be like popular, latest, oldest. That's how I'll do it, okay? But if you like, you can definitely make them be like filter, oldest, filter, you know, things like that. So it's up to you. But for me, I'll just have them be singular. So this one, it is going to be popular. This one is going to be latest. And then this one is going to be oldest. So let's add them over here. And I'll just copy this and I'll paste it 3 times. So this one is going to be popular, latest, this should be lower L, and then oldest, and this one is also going to be oldest. And I hope I did not make any typos here, and this one should be small o. And I believe that's all of them, okay? So let's do a reload, make sure everything works. Now, if you have, for example, by mistake, typed the wrong key, so let's say I add an extra E here, the way you know that is because it will basically show you the key itself, right? So now here, if I see this, I know, okay, I have made a mistake. Either I have a typo over here, or I have a typo inside my blog.php file, or I don't even have the key, right? So it could be one of those 3 cases. In this case, it's a typo over here, and I'll fix it real quick. Okay, next up, I believe there is nothing else to translate here. I'll just check. Yeah, I think that's all. So next up, we need to go ahead and let's also check the containing. I'll search for Lara. Yeah, this one also got updated. Okay, next up, we have our widgets. I'll also put that inside our blog file because it's a very small file. So next up, we have search. Let me just add the keys here so we don't have to keep going back and forth. So we have search, and next up we have recommended topics. Recommended, I guess technically it's recommended categories, but I'll use topics. So it's exactly the same. I'll just copy it from here, the English text. What else do we have? And I believe that is all actually, guys. Okay, so that's it. I'll save this. Let's now go ahead, and I believe we have to go on our search box. So I'll start with this one. I'll do underline, blog search. Although we could put this inside like a widget as well, but I'll just use this. And then one over here as well, right? Since we have a very small project, guys, it isn't really important, but if you have a very large project, you probably want to categorize these better or just have them be a bit smaller. And our application, again, we could have done everything in one single file, and that would have also been okay. But on larger projects, you do want to spend a little bit more time actually thinking about how you want to separate these so it's easier to update later on and manage them. Okay, last but not least, we have popular topics. I'm not sure actually where this one is, so let me open a post list. Let's see, is it category box? I'm not sure. Category badge, nope. Let's open up posts, index. It is category box, categories box. Okay, it's recommended topics. So let's update this one as well. I'll do underline, blog, recommended topics. So let's do reload, and everything looks exactly the same. Now we also have this placeholder inside here. We can also go ahead and update this. I think I forgot to do that. So let's open up search box again, and let me close all the extra files at the top. And let's see if I can find it. So I'll just copy it here. Where is the placeholder? Oh, it's over here. So I'll just put it over here. Okay, so we have also, we have this placeholder also using search, right? Now we could have a separate key for it. So for example, we can have a placeholder, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll do search placeholder. I'll do search ... And let's remove the ... from here. Or, again, here in this case, you can have, let's say, search for posts, right? Something like this. So for now, I'll just keep it be search ... Same as before. So let's do a reload, make sure everything works, guys. As you can see, it is indeed working. Again, it did not break anything on our application. Everything works as it did before. So that's the process of actually moving from hard-coded values to using actually Laravel's built-in language functionality. Now, I don't want the video to be more than 30 minutes, so in the last 5 minutes, I'll just show you guys how you can actually go ahead and add support for a second language. So I usually recommend you add the translations for your base language. Let's say it is English, so you first do the language lines for English, and then you can go ahead and actually translate it to a second language. So in this case, I'll go ahead and I'll do it for French. So I'll start off by going inside our lang folder and adding the folder for French. So again, for French, it is FR. I'll just add FR. And then next step, you can technically move all of these to FR folder, but Laravel actually makes this easier for us. You can actually just translate some parts of it, right? So it won't break your application. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and translate blog and home. And I'll even keep the menus the same. I'm not going to translate them. So the way we can do that is you can just go ahead and copy home and blog. So I'll just copy them and I'll paste them inside FR, right? And I believe I pasted it inside English again. All right, so now we have them inside FR. So the way Laravel works is if you don't have a translation for French, it will default back to your base language or kind of your fallback language or backup language, which is English, right? So you are not forced to translate everything. You can just translate what needs to be translated, right? So in some languages, for example, there is a lot of words shared with English. So you may actually be able to get away with not translating the validation maybe or the menus, but you may want to go ahead and translate some specific parts, let's say our landing page. Okay, so now that we have this, the next step for us is to actually go inside our FR folder and then update all these values from the English version and translate them to French, right? You can even go ahead and give this array to a translator, right? It's relatively easy to explain to them, update these to, let's say, French, right? So that's all we have to do. And for this one, I'll just use Google Translate and we can kind of translate it relatively quickly. So I'll do containing, and this one should be French, contenant, I believe. So let's just add that. Next up, we have popular. I'll do that. And it looks to be quite similar. We have latest. And of course, guys, if you don't care, so French has feminine and masculine. I don't know how that works. I'll just copy the first one. Obviously, we don't have that in English. Then we have oldest. So if you guys don't care about adding a second language, you don't have to obviously follow along. Just, watch the video. Next up, we have search. I'll just add this one as well. This is also exactly the same. Recommended topics. Recommended topics. So let's go ahead and also translate our home translation file. So we have featured posts. I'll add that. We have latest posts. And of course, guys, I'm using Google Translate just to demonstrate this. It will probably make a lot of mistakes. So this is just for testing purposes. On a real application, either you translate it yourself or you hire someone to do that for you. So let's add this as well. And I believe this one has one here. I'll just switch this to double quotes. That'd be a little bit easier. And then last but not least, we have start reading. That's very long as well. Okay, so that's it, guys. So that's the process. You basically copy whatever you like to translate from your English folder to your FR folder. Realistically, or in an ideal sense, you want to translate all of them, even the validation messages. Now, some of the validation messages, I believe, are already translated. So if you just search on Google, I believe someone has already translated these, so you can just kind of reuse those. But for your own application-specific stuff, like the blog, home and menu, you obviously have to do it yourself. So copy the ones you want or all of them to your second language or the new language you want to support. Go ahead and update all the English versions to the new language, right? So in this case, it was French. And that's all you have to do, okay? So now that we have done that, we have actually added support for it. Now, if we obviously reload our application, everything is still in English. In order to switch to French, we would have to go ahead and change our application's default language. And we do that through our app config. So I'll go under config app, and it's already open actually. If I kind of scroll down, there is a section for locale. And by default, this is English or EN. So if you want to change this to the new one we added, which is French, I just need to go ahead and update this from EN to FR. That's all I have to do. So let's do that. I'll do a reload. And as you can see, we get, I'm not even going to try to read that. Yellow news. As you can see, it got updated to French, right? Now, as you can see, our menus are still in English because we did not translate them. So Laravel is smart. It will just go ahead and fall back to English. And again, the fallback is defined just under locale. It's called fallback locale. In this case, we have set this to English. Now, generally, I believe most applications are only going to support 2 languages, but if you have, let's say, 4 or 5, your fallback locale, for example, could be Spanish, right? Maybe that's your main language, and then French or FR is, let's say, a second language you support. So this fallback can be anything. In our case, we only have 2 languages, so I'm kind of forced to set this to EN or English. And as you can see, it is indeed working, okay? Just like this. So let's also check our blog page. And all of these also got translated to French. So this makes it super easy to switch back and forth. You can maybe have 2 versions of the website deployed with French and English. Maybe you can have a separate subdomain that just has this config BFR, or you can also add the ability to kind of dynamically change that with some sort of language picker, or maybe if your users log in, you can go ahead and in their profile give them the ability to, you know, change their language here as well, right? So this value is actually dynamically loaded based on the logged in users, let's say, language preferences, right? So that's a little bit more advanced, but it's still relatively easy to do if you guys are interested in dynamically changing the language. I do have a video for that on my channel. If you're interested in me adding that to the course, let me know in the comments, and I'll definitely do a separate video on kind of giving the user the ability to pick their language in their profile. So that way it's kind of saved forever, and every time they log in, it automatically uses the language they chose. So that's it, guys, for today's episode. I hope you learned something new. It's relatively easy to do translations in Laravel. It just takes time to do that. Generally, you want to do that from the start once you're writing or you're kind of setting up your blade files, so you don't have to backtrack and go ahead and update these. So that's it. And yeah, and if you want, you can definitely go ahead and move these to the database as well. It's actually not that hard, especially if you use the Spati translation loader library that I mentioned. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like. As always, subscribe to the channel if you are not, so you get notified of the latest videos. It's also the best way to support the channel and kind of help me make more videos. And I see you guys on the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.